Thank you all for being part of today's session. Today we are going to talk about database fundamentals. One of the things we are going to talk about is database systems and the filing system. We want to know the difference between that and what at all is database. Before we even look at the database system, what are the types? Are there types? What are the terminologies in this course? Some of the things we should get used to it, and so on and so forth. And so we'll look at what a database is and what it does, and why database design is important. We are going to look at how modern databases evolved from files and file systems. All right, about the flaws in file system data management, what a DBMS is, all right, what it does and how it fits into database system, right, about the types of database systems and database modules, about database modeling, and why data modules are important. So we are going to look at some of these things before the end of today's session. So when we talk about data, who can help the class? Since we've learned a little bit about computers, information, and how data is transformed to information and so on and so forth. With that knowledge, I would like to begin the class by asking for our knowledge on what data is. Anybody? If your hand is up, you may unmute and speak, sir. Anyone?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello. Please. Data is any raw fact or figure that needs to be processed.
That needs to be processed. That's powerful. Thank you very much, sir. In this class, nobody is wrong, and so try to contribute, okay? And the more you contribute, the more likely you create events in your mind to remember. So our brother just said data are raw facts, right? And that are ready to be processed, right? Is that what you said, brother?
That needs to be processed.
That
Raw
needs to
fact
be
or
processed.
figure
That
and
needs
processed
to be
to
processed.
information.
Powerful. Excellent, excellent. So that's right. Data is just any given raw fact, all right, that initially doesn't make sense. So when I come to you and I say, Eben, uh, you begin to ask questions, right? Eben, who is Eben? What is Eben? Why Eben? Eben has done what? What has he done? You get me? So over there, I have just given you. It's not even an information. It's not qualified at that moment to be an information. So um, at that stage, we just call it a data. So you have given me an information, but it doesn't make sense. But we don't call it information. So if you want to understand data, this is how the structure of it looks like. So basically, it's just raw. This is why we say it's raw in nature. So throughout this course, we want to talk about the basic unit of information, which is data, right? And how we store it and the processes involved in storing data, whether it has to do with businesses, the programs you are creating, right, and or managing, right, at your workplaces or in your school or your businesses, right? So how do you keep these files? How do you keep this information, right? And how to manipulate this data for your own good. And we are going to look at all these things, right? But except that we will just add a technical notch to it, and we are good to go. So it is not a difficult course at all. All right. All right. So data, when we talk about data, it actually just constitutes the building blocks of information. As I've said, it is the basic unit of information, right? So it is when we begin to put data, connected data together, this is where we begin to develop something we call information. So when we connect the dots to related data, so when I come to you and I said, Amma, and then Amma didn't make sense to you, then Amma gave a chocolate. So today is a chocolate day. Today is Val's Day, right? Amma received the chocolate. So if Amma received the chocolate, then it means that we have received an information. What is the information about? The information is about Amma receiving the chocolate. You get it? But initially, when we came and we said Amma alone can't be an information at that point because we don't know what Amma means. There is no pre knowledge or of that demanded the answer for us to give the answer Amma. You get it? There wasn't any communication before. You just popped up and you start saying Amma. We'll just catch you and throw you in the bin because we will say that this person is not correct. So one of the things that makes data meaningful is when it has been converted into information. And so when we talk about database, we are not only talking about data in itself, but we are also dealing with information as well. And someone will ask, so why call it data? You see, so when you are dealing with things, right, it is necessary for you to address it in its basic unit, right? Because information, when we are going ahead, you will notice that information actually can develop from data to information and then to other forms. So right here on this page that I'm presenting to you, you can see that, right? So you can see data, you can see the user, right? And then from the user, you see a data, right? So the data begins when it is produced or meaning is added to it, it turns into information. And then with the information, when you now have the information, what do you do with the information? You try to understand it. So yes, you have told me that Amma has received the chocolate, but I don't understand what you are talking about until context is provided to it. When I say context, basically what I mean is um, you give me the premise. I believe we all studied logic, right? Critical thinking. We provide the premise on which that information was given so that we can better understand the information we have received. So I throughout the study of this course, I realized that it is not wise or prudent to just make decisions based on information. This is why knowledge sits on top of information. So as soon as you understand the information, it becomes knowledge to you. So we have some people who interchange knowledge with information, right? There's a difference between receiving the information, and it takes another step to understand the information, because the one who received the information and the one who received and understood it, these are two different people. right? So the one who understands the information is able to manipulate the information, right, into becoming other things or into using it to make decisions. Do you get me? So if I come and give you an information that Amma received the chocolate and we now understood by um, the basis of um, context provision where people provided meaning to the information, then now we begin to understand why Amma received the chocolate. That, oh, today is actually a Vowels Day. That's why Amma received the chocolate. Do you get it? Oh, then it might have been from her husband, right? Or her boyfriend, right? And based on that, then she might be happy or she might be in a joyous mood, right? So based on that same information that we got and the understanding that we got, our information translated into knowledge. So it is when you understand your information that knowledge is gotten. I want us to understand things up to this point. Okay. So he who receives the information is different from the person who understands the information. All right. And then after we understand it, we now can base on it to conclude. So in conclusion, to conclude something is to decide, right? It's to decide on a particular thing. Okay. And it it now helps us to make decisions based on the knowledge of the information that we have gotten. Are we following? Then in decision making, after we make decision, there must be people who are or who will be ready to act, right? Based on those decision making, right? So because your decision would always trigger or should always trigger an action. So normally when people make decisions, you see them perform actions. True or not true? True or not true? When people make decisions,
It's true. It's true.
yes, they are normally followed by actions. Today, I want to make the class practical, practical, so that you can relate with it. Okay, it to be. If I make it too technical, um, people would find it difficult to understand. So, um, uh, people now begin to make decisions, actions, perform actions based on their decisions that they have made. And so after these actions are made, you see that um, these actions, when you have someone who thinks deep or someone who always want to go ahead or think ahead or be able to predict based on the actions to do better in the future, they normally analyze the actions. So after you perform the action, you want to watch what the effect of your actions have done, right? When you perform, after you make the decision, you perform an action. You want to see is for a goal, right? So after did you achieve the goal? You want to know if you achieved your goal or not, right? So you must be able to sit down and gather uh, pieces of uh, uh, the results that you got, right? And in so doing, when you are doing that, you collect information, pieces of it that really don't make sense in the beginning until you put them together and then they make meaning to you again. So in so doing, you have started the whole process again. So this is what we have in the first image here. Now I'm going to make it IT related. All right. So um, when you are in a company, the same way, right? Um, you you are dealing with data, right? And let's say data of you are to collect data. You are working in a statistical environment, right? And you are taking data of people in an area. So after you took their ages, their names, where they come from, their height, and all that, right? These are individually data that you are collecting from them, because at that point that you are collecting, they may not make sense to you, right? Until you sit down and compile them, right? Let's say if you are the one that everybody is sending the data to, in the beginning, it may not make sense to you, right? Because they may be coming individually. So you'll be there, you receive the names, the ages, they are coming. Then now, you compile them after everything has come. You compile them, you arrange them, right? Names, you group names where they have to be, you group ages where they have to be, right? You group where what else? Uh, Date of birth, country, phone numbers, all those details that you will need to create, um, let's say, uh, a file. Let me use that. I want to use simple terms in the beginning. Then later on, we grow into the technical terms, right? Creating that file that you have all the the people's details, right? Then from there, you sit down. Let's say Ghana Police Service comes to you and say that we want the data that you have collected from the people, and we want to make um, meaning of it, because they want to know the number one, the kind of people that are living there, um, what they are earning, how much they are earning, what kind of businesses. Do you get it? So that they will know how to deploy the police service people in those areas. So they will need specific information from the, let's start using the technical terms now, right? From the data you have collected, they want to utilize it and use it to make decisions going forward. So because we have limited resources when it comes to the police service, especially in this side of the world, Ghana, for instance, right? Where the ratio of one policeman is to how many people? Right now, I think one policeman is to 10,000 people, right? In Ghana. Can someone check it for us? All right. So you want to be able to know if um, criminal activities are likely to be able to happen in certain areas. Because if criminal activities will happen in certain areas, sometimes or most times they are determinant, or they are determinant on specific factors, which includes maybe um, people living in high standard lives, right? So it is through this that criminals also try to move in certain areas, because they know that when they move in those areas, they can loot a lot of things, right? So it is likely that criminal activities would happen in areas where it's busy, and business activities are moving on. So they would want to make use of the data that you have collected and try to make decisions on policing in that community. All right. Are we moving? Are you following? Are you following? If you are following, give
Yes,
me the emojis so that
Yes,
I
sir.
know. All right. All right. Now they come and take
Yes,
it from
yes, sir.
you.
We are following.
Awesome. Now they take this information from you, and they begin to make sense of it by comparing the data together, comparing, hey, this person, the work they are doing, what time they close, how many people are in the market area, and what time do they close late, what time do they come out of the market. All these things, you have the data. So now they begin to compare all these things, and based on that, they can say, oh, based on the total number of people in this market, we can deploy, let's say, 10 policemen in the market, and it will be sufficient. So in so doing, the police have made certain decisions, right? They've already made a decision. Now, they will now deploy the police into that community, right? As a result of your data that you gave them, that they've generated information and they've been able to understand it, becoming knowledge, right? And have made these decisions, right? Now they are on the actions. They've deployed the men into the market. They are performing their duties. But the aftermath of it, were they successful? If there were criminal activities, did it reduce or it increased more when they went? So everything that you gave them was subject to the actions. You get it? It helped them to perform actions, but after the actions, they need to now monitor and then generate the feedback they got. Was it successful? Was it unsuccessful? Based on the men they deployed, should they now deploy more people? So you see that it is now the actions have generated another system of collecting data for future purposes. And these are the some of just the important some of the importance of database system to the world, right, at large. And we say data constitute building blocks of information. So this is the pieces that comes together to form information, as I've described elaborately in these examples. Those who are joining, I hope you'll be able to follow along, right? And if you join and you're not able to follow, I recommend that after the video is shared, you will be able to go back and then play, because we are going to build on these analogies, all right? Powerful. So data is processed to produce information, right? As we've rightly said, information reveals meaning of data. Information reveals the meaning of the data to you, right? So based on this explanation, these words will begin to make sense to you, right? Information is a valuable resource, right? Is it true? Is it true that information reveals the meaning of data? Can someone explain? Can someone tell us and try to
That's
explain
right.
for us? That's right. Okay. So can somebody else explain why data why information reveals meaning of data? Can someone do that for us? Anybody? 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 I want people to try.
Please come again with the question.
So, I was asking that, is it true that information reveals meaning of data? And someone said yes. So I was now asking, how do you think information reveals the meaning of data? Do you get me, sir?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so during processing, meaning is made of data and it is put into forms that are more understandable to the user. Therefore, you can say information makes sense of raw data due to processing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our brother has gone far ahead of us. That's powerful. That's powerful. I wanted an explanation that's related to the examples that we. Okay, Mr. Anand, you can also try. Mr. Anand.
I agree with Mr. Wilson. Same answer.
Yes, definitely. So, um, uh, so those of us who are now joining us, you see, information in terms of the computing sense, right, comes from the root called data. And normally, in between data and information, the data is processed. So it goes through a step called processing, where it is processed to produce this information. So based on these analogies, I was trying to elaborate on how they metamorphose or how they change into information. Our brother went ahead and then used the terms. But I believe all of us understand now. Okay. And so it's very true that information reveals data, the meaning of data, and also because data are packets of information. And so when it becomes information, it reveals its real form, right? And so our brother is so right. Information is a valuable resource. It's a valuable resource. So if you compare data and information is more valuable, right? Unlike data that we may not understand. So information is basis for knowledge, and also it is true because if you even look at the tree, from data processed into information, the next step is knowledge, because you need understanding on the information to go to the next step called knowledge, right? So it is the foundation. Information is the foundation for knowledge, all right? So information is a valuable resource. Information is a basis for knowledge, all right? Good, timely, relevant information is critical to decision making. And so there is no way that you can make decisions without having the knowledge on the information of the data that you have received. All right. Good decision making is key to organizational survival, right? So when you make the right decision, its repercussion would be evident in your actions, right? If in your actions, because a good decision will yield a good result, right? Awesome. Are we following? Have we followed up to this point? So basically, this is how data changes, or this is how data metamorphoses into information. And this is basically the illustration on the diagram projected. Now, we want to talk about database since it's the main cause for which we are here. We needed to understand data, take it aside, and then understand it and its forms that it takes. And now that we do, we want to add the database side to it, right? So that we understand where we are going. Okay, so when we talk about a database is a shared, integrated computer structure containing application. That's where the end user interacts, right? Data, and then we also have what? Metadata. So basically, what we are trying to say is that a database is something that is what? Having in itself, right, a data that has to do with what you would need, right? What you would need. Data that has to do with what you need, and then data that is hidden. So this is what we mean by the metadata. So what are some of the metadata that we are unaware of? So anytime you are interacting with a database system, right? You have a certain information or data that is hidden behind what you have inputted, right? And this goes along and it is normally unretrievable. Okay, so This is what we term as the metadata. But we also have people who are specialized in retrieving this data and using them to make decisions. So it depends on which side, and we are going to talk about that side too very soon. So we just want you to understand that it includes the application data, right? The one that you are using, the data that has been collected and that is about to be used or processed, the main thing that you have collected. And the main data that you collected, it also includes certain data, especially ones that are computer related. They contain extra information that the computer attaches to it that you may not be aware of. So this type of data, it is not readily available to the normal user. So this one we classify as the metadata. All right. And then we have the database management system. So now when you say database management system, this is the system that helps you to interact with the data that you have collected, the data that you need, right? This is a system that is specially created with software developers, right? Programmers, software designers, right? And then administrators. So I said developers because these are the people who create, right? These are the people who code the program. But before they code, there are some people who go to the person who needs the system and then listens to what they need and designs. So when the person is designing, it's not creation, it's not also coding. They are just trying to understand the person who needs the system or the organization or the institution in order to be able to bring out a plan on how the database system would look like when it is created. So the work of this person is the database designer, right? So, and then when they come and do their job, then the developers also come and then do their work, right? And then after that, you need someone to maintain it and be able to handle and manage the affairs of the system. And this is the work of the database administrator. So we got to know right from the onset the different careers that has to do with it. There are more careers in this, and we are going to dive into that very soon. And so what does the database management system entails? It entails managing your database, the data that you have collected. So I was making an example of the population, right? Or the database or on collecting data from your area for the police to use it in their policing, right? And so having a system that will handle the data that you have collected would mean that that system will now manage all the data that you have collected. You get it? I'm being careful on the choice of words, right? On all the data that you have collected. You get it? So it's just managing. So managing in terms of being able to classify the data. Okay, now I collected their names, so I need to create something or a title. Let me use that term. A title called names. All right. I need to be able to create so and so. So this system is programmed such that it will be able to classify your data into meaningful sections. All right. Right. So it's in doing so, it is managing your database. It's one of the functions of the management of your data. Right. So it manages your data. So your database management system manages your data, right? Your data structure. So able to classify them into various parts, right? So that you can be able to fetch it later on, right? It also controls access to your data, right? It also controls access to your data. So who gets access to what, right? And also, if you want to retrieve something, is it easily accessible, right? And also, it provides query language. So one of the terms we are going to see throughout this course is the word query, right? So it is when you have, it's basically when you have made a request to fetch data from your database management system, basically, right? So that's what it means. So it has in some systems have in built in them these I mean languages for you to be able to further program things, right? And this would be for the developer sections of these programs, right? Okay, and so basically this is the anatomy of your database management system, all right? So moving on, we are going to look at some of the advantages of the database management systems. So now that we know data and we know the work of the database management system and what a database management system is, we want to look at some of the advantages of the database management system, right? One of them is what? It makes data management more efficient. So right here, even the functions of it you can also use it as an additional advantage, right? Right. Because the function of each of everything is normally its advantage that you get from it. And so normally when we are talking about advantages, don't hesitate to also look at the functions. All right. So the first one is what makes data management more efficient and effective, right? So if you were to handle everything by the written form, so we have two types, right? Two ways of keeping data, right? We have the manual way of keeping data and we have the computerized way of keeping data. All right. There's an additional note I think we should add. I noticed that the lecturer said it by word of mouth, but didn't add that. So let's take note, okay? The manual includes the written one where you would try and keep the data. Imagine you are keeping the data yourself. You write it in different pages in 4 different books. And that was the initial way of keeping data, and then we are going to look at the history of keeping data. So these systems, this computerized system of keeping, which is the database management system, helps to be more efficient in that you are able to do more, right? You're able to do more with the software. If you were to write, you would have taken a lot of time to achieve little, right? But with the help of the DBMS, right? I've started introducing the abbreviations, so we'll be getting used to it very soon. All right. So whenever I say DBMS, I'm talking about database management system. All right. So it helps you to do more in the shortest possible time, and it's also very effective. And it is, as we say, garbage in, garbage out. What you give it is what it will produce, and so it's very effective. It would give you errors based on the input you give it, right? Because it's not supposed to make mistakes. It's a machine. But then, as a machine, it also has its own disadvantage, right? And so when we are looking at the disadvantages, you can look at some of them. So query language allows quick answers to ad hoc, right? So when we say ad hoc basically means an instruction. Remember, I said a query is what? A request that you have made, right? So normally in the database systems, you make requests to find data or information about specific things that you are looking for, and we call them queries, right? And we also, when we say ad hoc, it means that something that It's just done once, an instruction that has been given once, basically in this sense, right? So let us also take notice. So okay, I think it's here. So one time what queries. So when you are working in a field where you have been given a task to do and it was a one-time thing, you just put it over there, it just produces for you, and then you get your answers and you're on the go, right? This is how quick your DBMS can look like, right? So this is definitely an advantage, unlike the book system where you will just be going through your book to find a particular thing. Even if you have the table of content, unless let's say you imagine that the middle is here, or you put a thread in the middle of a certain place before you can find, and if it has to do with so many books, right? It will be clumsy, as we have seen in some people's offices. They decide to keep data in books. You go there, they have books going back to 100 years ago. They can trace everything for you. But time has changed. We have the computerized system in the form of the DBMS, um, right? That is also helping us achieve that. So provides easier access to better managed data, right? So it's easy. You're able to reach out to any information you would need or data that you would need to make your decisions, and you're on the go. Very easy, very easy. And as we are entering into this course, I know that some people may take on the database developing side of it. And so one of the things you must look out as a database designer or programmer is the fact that it should be something that is easy to use. So the user interface must be easy to use for the end user. Also, okay, so let's look at that as we are entering into this field, and we would all do well, right? So because sometimes you look at certain softwares and they become obsolete over time because people find it difficult to learn. It's one thing learning about the course, it's another thing learning about the software for the course. You get it? And if it will take you 10 years or 5 years or 3 years to be learning one software, then it means that, hey, we have a lot to do. So making things easy to understand would always put you ahead of your competitors or your peers. So promotes integrated view of organizations operations, right? So if you are a manager of a company, or you are the owner of a company or shareholder, when you have access to the database of your company, you are able to see, right, every department, right, of in your company at work. You are able to see every thing that is going on, the operations of the company, in just the data that you have access to, right? And you are able to make decisions with that too as well. You see everything holistically, right? That's also an added advantage. And the last one is what reduces the probability of inconsistent data. Reduces the probability of inconsistent data. So when you have a database management system, we have something we call the file system, which is different from these modern DBMS, right? Where you have separate folders that are created. We are going to look at that. You have separate folders that are, so let's say we have a department called the marketing department in a company, and then you have let's say the accounts department. Help me name some of the departments in our companies. I mentioned marketing department. What else? accounts department, and where?
Security department.
Yes, sir.
Human resource.
Human resource, very good. Human resource. What else? Sales department, right? Yeah, sales department. So you realize that with the file system, which was the earliest form of keeping database, right? Keeping data, it wasn't an integrated form, it was individual. So if you were to be in those days and you are in a company, you, the head of the HR of that company, would keep a separate data from the one who is in the sales department, right? And the one who is in the account department is also keeping a separate data. So in the end, you realize that, wait a minute, but we are dealing with the same customers. So it is the same customer that will pay that the accountant will record, right? It's that same customer that will pay for the salespeople to record the volumes of sales that are going on, right? It's the same customer that is bringing money for the accountant to also pay the workers. So you need to be having a third-party system that is able to integrate all this data together. And this is what DBMS brings on board. So when we talk about inconsistent data, you would have, for instance, in that system, in that old system, someone record that data. And when the person records that data, so if the salesperson records, the account department must reflect in the account department. And so if the account department is disconnected, right, they are having their own system, they are not on the field, so they will not receive any corresponding entry in on their account, right? And so it will bring a sort of like inconsistency, and this is what the this place is talking about. So with the modern system, the DBMS, it brings when you record data somewhere, it reflects in all parts. In fact, all of them are mixed together, are integrated. And so you are able to relate this data to this department and the other department to that department. Are we understanding? Do we get it up to this point? Is it very clear? Are things clear up to this point? Powerful. So this is basically
very clear, very clear.
Yes, so there must be consistency in the data, in the input of data. So same data stored in different places with possibilities of different value is not common. In fact, some of the database systems, when you input or you create the various fields, you see, I've started using the terms. So in the beginning, I was using terms like title. Now I'm using field. So the field is that section that you create for an allocation of a data. So when I said names, when you create a section for names in database management systems or in database, in this course, it is termed as what? Field, right? It is termed as what? Field. So you've created a field. So one of the fields is names. You also create a field for ages, right? Their ages, the country they come from. These are all fields, all right? So in some of the database systems, or most of them, you would see that when you input the data on one end, it would automatically reflect on the others, right? It is automated in that form. So there is no need for someone to now go and do this thing for the person to even make a mistake and make the wrong entry, right? So it prevents inconsistency in the data that we provided. So this is why it reduces the probability of inconsistent data, right? Powerful. So In moving on, we are also looking at how it interacts, the DBMS manages interaction. So how does it look like from the user, right, to the system, right? How does it look like to the back end people, so those who are behind the manipulation, the administrator of it. So because the one who created it normally is not the one who handles it, but hey, it depends on the company. So if the company doesn't have money to employ a designer, a developer, and an administrator, you, the one who created it, may be the one who is managing it. Most of the times too, it is companies, they employ companies to do that. Sometimes too, there's someone who creates it and then they employ someone to um, uh, administer it, right? To be the admin for it. Okay, so from the one who is using to the one who is at the back end, like how does it work, right? So this is what we are going to look. So this is what is called the interaction phase of it, right? So when you have the DBMS, the database management system, what happens is that you can have the various fields. So the fields that I was saying, this is where you see it. So you have fields like what? Customers, invoices, products. So all in one. So you want to fetch a data from customers. You fetch it through the interface, right? The software's interface, right? The interface that allows you to use the software, right? Or the program. You key in your query, right? And then it's the system would fetch the data that you need, that you've queried. It communicates it to its assigned field, fetches it, and then brings it back to you, right? You, the user. And so the same thing happens to each data that you want to access, or each field that you want to access. Now, you realize that on the top of it is the metadata. And as I explained elaborately in the beginning, you realize that the metadata is that side of data that the normal user may not have access to. All right? Right. It may, however, be in this modern days, it may, however, be available upon request. That one, the administrator of the data, the place or the manager of that department where the data is kept may have to grant permission for, let's say, people who may need it for very important reasons, like the police service and so on and so forth, right? So when you send a picture, you see the data that you need, which is your image, right? Or when you send a video, you are interested in the video itself, what is being played on the go. That is what you need. But there's someone, or there are people who can just pick that same video and just pick more details from it that went with, let's say, the phone that you took the video with. This data includes where you took the data. It may even include your location, right? The details, the dimensions of your video, with what dimensions were they taken, which quality were they taken in, right? And so on and so forth. These are metadata that may normally not be accessible to you, right? But may be accessible upon request. I want you to understand these things, all right? I'm going slowly, so that you'll be able to understand things, all right? I don't want to speed up, because this course is such that if I start speeding up, you will not get anything, all right? So now that we understand how it works. So basically, you using the DBMS database management system, which is in the middle, any user or any computer in that same department may have that centralized system. You get it? And then they will be using, so no matter which department they are, they can have access to it, right? And then it is connected to a database structure at the background, or we call it the back end. You get it? At the back end, those people who are keeping it for you. And it's also kept in a storage called the server. So the storage normally is also called what? A server, right? The place where the actual data is kept is normally called what? A server. So I want you to know these terminologies as we move on. So this is how the DBMS manages interaction between the user, the back-end users, right? And then the back-end users, and then the end users. All right. So let's notice these things. It's not difficult at all. All right. If you have a question at this point, you can raise your hand and I'll attend to you as quickly as possible. All right. So now we want to look at database design. So I told you that there are some people who are involved in the design part of the database. And what is their importance at all? What do they bring on the table? What has a database designer got to do? What is his importance, right? So when they do their job well, the importance of a good designed database system, right, involves the fact that poor design results becomes unwanted. All right. That means that it avoids when a good database system is designed, it helps to avoid data redundancy. How does it do that? Let me explain. So the person who designs it remember I said that the person who designs it plans or decides to take information from the one who would need the database to be done in their company. Let's say, for instance, you, the one who is listening to me, you have a company and you want it done and you've employed the services of a database designer. The person will come to you and know what your company is involved in. When they know, they begin to ask you questions on what you are exactly involved in, for them to know how even your sections will be created. Because if I am dealing in phones, the sections or field that I would use in my database would be different from you that is involved in clothing. So you, the one involved in clothing, may have fields that may include sizes, which includes what? Extra large, extra large, medium, small, right? But if I'm dealing with phones, I may not have those classifications in my database. And so the help of the designer is to help you to identify these things, and the person is able to translate that into the IT world, right? And able to break it down for the developer to take it, right? And be able to create something based on what is needed, right? So if the person is not able to properly line up these things, right? This roadmap on what to follow, how to do this, how to reach this place, then it is likely that one of the disadvantages would be that your data would be created your database system will be created, or a section or a field will be created, but it will not be used because it is not related to what you are doing. And so that data that you may collect into that field would be redundant or redundant as a result. Are we following? Okay, so if you have a good designer on this side, then it means the opposite will happen, right? So this is exactly what the point is saying here. And I'm still taking my time to explain so that you catch up. All right, so this is what it says by what poor design results in unwanted data redundancy. Unnecessary duplication too can also happen because when you duplicate details that are needed, it is obvious that you are taking much space because you are dealing with data, and data moves in sizes because you need a certain capacity to keep volumes of data. And when you keep repeating certain data, then it means that you are spending more money in increasing your capacity. So you have 1 terabyte, you are increasing to, let's say, 100 terabytes, right? And it takes money to do that, right? I'm just using this capacity as an example. All right, so for someone who is managing your data to be duplicating these fields, it means that you engage in large or huge amounts of data that will occupy, and in the end you end up buying or paying for more space. You get it? And you spend more money that you were supposed to invest in something else into keeping your data in your business. So this is why it is important to make sure that you follow these things, right, as we are teaching, because some of you is going to prove a lot more important as time goes on, right? So poor design generates errors leading to decision based on incorrect data, right? So if there is a poor design, then it means that your decisions will be affected, because if there's a poor design, one of the things that it will affect are how you will be able to project, because a properly aligned data is what you stand on to make your future projections, right? If things are aligned, then you are able to make meaning from it. It becomes information to you. Remember, right? When it becomes meaningful, then now you'll be able to understand. So imagine you are not able to understand the whole thing for it to even become knowledge for you. Then it means that you can't make the right decision, or you can't even probably make decisions at all, because it is properly, poorly designed, right? It will not achieve the purpose for which it is meant to do, right? So this is what this point. So these are the importance. So the purpose of a good design would make sure the opposite will happen, obviously. So the practical approach will focus on the principles and the concept of database design. And that one it's going to be taught, I think, in the second semester for us, right? In information. We are going to take it in a different course. So I think this semester is not going to be looked at more. Importance of logical design, right? So that one too, we're going to. I think she didn't even explain this side. I think she jumped, but we have looked at it. The historical roots of database. So we are looking at where it came from, and I explained from the beginning, right? It came first, computer application focused on clerical tasks. It was focusing on particular activities only. You get it? It focused on specific activities and nothing else. Unlike the recent ones that you'll be able to fetch data from the HR department, can fetch data from the sales department, so all in one. You see, is the same system but we are sitting on different computers, but we are using the same system, right? And we are accessing the same data. So this modern world, this is how data keeping has evolved into. But in the beginning, it was focused on specific areas, right? So if you want to prepare bills, there's a specific field that you can get the data from, right? So requests for information, how many bills were not paid this month quickly followed, right? So then it was followed by the ability to be able to request for information, right? So that means that in the beginning, you couldn't even request for information on a particular data you have gathered. Let's say you have collected data on um, the payment of certain things in your company. You will not be able to access your data unless you will not be able to get information on it unless you gather your data yourself, probably write them down and then put your head together before you can make meaning of it. So this is how far the journey of database, right, has come. So the file system, then it came to the file system where it was centralized on one side only, where I explained that as one department will have their own, each department will have their own system. So data organized according to expected use, um, data processing specialist, computerized manual file systems. So they basically evolved into the file system. So from individual activities in a particular section, then it developed into the ability to request that individual action, and then now it included the whole department. And then now we are on that side, the DBMS full system that includes all the other departments, all right, together, be able to fetch the information from all the other departments, all right. So this is how far we have come from. And so we looked at some of the terminologies, data, raw facts. Let me just look at it. Field, a group of characters with specific meaning. So let's say the characters are the names of all of you who are listening right now, and it is called a field. So the name of the field is what? The title that will give that particular field is what? Names of the attendance of the makeup class today. So the names, right, will be the field, a group of characters with a specific meaning. So the another one too can be age, right? Where it will contain the characters of the ages of the people who are listed in the previous field, which is called names, right? So each field or each title or heading you create is also known as a field, as I said in the beginning, for the benefit of those who are now joining. And then we also have record. So it is logically connected field. So now when you have names, and I mentioned ages, I'm sorry for the background. When you are now connecting the names to the ages, right? It is now called what? Records. So the record involves two or more fields. If you look at it, right? Connected fields that describe a person. So the age is describing the name of the person. So Ajua, her age is 89 years. You get it? So together, the 89 years and Ajua are related. And so both are called what? A record. You get it? It can be two, it can be more, right? So two or more. So you just like you have her age and you have her name, you can have the country of her birth, you can have it can go on and on, right? Just like the data you have on your Ghana card. All right. So these are records. So this is what is known as a record. And then so when you have a collection of records to what is it called? So now when you have all of them and you put them together and you've named all of them, you've grouped all of them again, it's now called a file. So this is now the file that you have on your machine. You get it now? So after you collect the name, their ages and everything, the various records, you now save it in a container called a file, right? That you can share for people to also have access to. So this is it begins with data, then goes to field, record, and then file. So when we say record, you should understand what they mean. It can it can come in the objectives in the exams. So let's take a closer look at it and notice the difference. Very, very important, right? Data, field. Field is a group of characters with specific meaning, and I mentioned like names, right? And ages, countries, nationality, right? These are fields that may be created on database systems, right? And then when you connect them, or when they are all connected together, so Amma is 89 years, comes from Netherlands, but it's a Ghanaian. Do you get me? And all that. So together, all of them is what we call what? Connecting all of them is what? A record. But when you contain all of them in a container and you have access to it from one source, one point, that's when it's called what? A file. All right? Great. So the simple file system where, as I was saying, the sales department, you can see over here, and then the personnel department, as you can see, so let's just replace it with what? The HR department. All right. So under the sales department, you have a file system, a file management programs, and then you also have file report programs. All has to do with the customer. And then you also have sales file. Sales file also has to do with the customer. You get it? Aha. So you realize that there will definitely be duplication. You get it? And everything is so decentralized. You waste a lot of resources, and you need different people to be handling this. You see, you have to employ a lot of people to be doing these things. You get it? Otherwise, your workers will be inefficient at work, because all the time, if they have to locate a particular information, it's so duplicated. You think that it is this one you need, then because it has the same detail or similar detail, when you pick it, you realize that this is not what you need. You have to look for another one. And now, even if you find the related one, you now have to compare. It's just a whole messed up system. So the simple file system is basically not a simple system. It's a messed up system that can give you a lot of problems. Are we following? So the disadvantages of that system. So we are going to compare that system with the DBMS system. So there's a difference between this file system, the way things are handled here separately, but the same company, but everybody has their own way of keeping their data. And then you have the disadvantages of it. So you can see a lot of disadvantages. We have looked at some of them, like requires extensive programming in test. So even if you are a programmer in this kind of workplace and you have to do work, yes, you will get your own money. You will charge well, because the work is not small. You have to create programs for each and every this thing that they will create, even though there will be duplication. You see the thing? It's a tedious work, right? For the program, they will charge you well. You see, so it's not this thing. So time consuming, right? Makes ad hoc queries impossible. When there is a one-time request to fetch an information, you get information, all right, but they may be similar. Have you ever want to find out something and you request the information to be gotten, and then you got a lot of similar results, especially when you were using Google search? Some of them, you thought it was related until you tapped on it, and you realize that this thing is not connected at all. You get it? So it's very important to know these things. Okay, it consumes your time, leads to islands of information. They don't even have to do with what you are looking for. Okay, A file system continues the data dependence, change in files data characteristics. So the same data can be renamed in another form. You see the inconsistency in that side too. Must tell program what to do and how. A lot of programming has to go into it, right? Because you have decided to decentralize everything. Work has to go into every department all the time. The programmers will have a lot of work to do in this type of company. So if you are going into database systems, you have to know these things. The companies that run this type of system, it will shock you that some companies are still running this file system instead of the DBMS. It will surprise you. And when you are a programmer and you see yourself, you have to run for your life. Especially, and these people too, they don't like to pay well. So we have to reason up and know, because as a programmer, most of our people, they don't want to stay at one place. We don't want to stay at one place. We come and do the shabo for you and we go. Then you employ your administrator, or you employ us, then we'll be doing monthly work for you. You'll be paying us from remote areas. We appear when we want to appear. Do you get it? So if you are working for these companies full time and all that, who are using this, they refuse to change. You will do a lot of work. All right. Must tell program what to do and how to do all the time. The programmers are at work because they need to. It's like almost as if they are the only ones who can handle the system. And such systems too, they don't have easy interfaces, right? Makes file systems cumbersome from programming and data management views. All right, as usual, structural dependence. Change in file structure requires modification of relate. So this one means that when you change a file, or even the name of a file, it means that in one department, it means that the programmer has to go back, reprogram every other this thing that has to do, or that is related to that particular data that you are dealing with. You get it? Adjust every other one, because you are using decentralized. So work must be done on all other ones that are related to that particular file. And that's how tedious things are. You need to work on each and every one because they are decentralized. Okay, so again, when you see these companies, run away from them or for one is for arm. So field definitions and naming conventions, right? Flexible record definition anticipates reporting, and flexible record definition anticipates reporting requirements. Selection of proper field names important. Hey, Bro, selection of proper field names important. Attention to length of field names, right? Use of unique record identifiers. So it's like every other department in the company needs to use a different set of systems, right? That is different from each other. You don't have flexibility anywhere. It's just rigid in its usage. We are going to look at it, right? You have data redundancy. You can have it, and I explained it, right? I don't want to go over in its modification. Hey, bro, for modification, right? So database consists of. So now let's look at the system itself. So we've looked at the database. We've looked at data, its conversion into information. What happens in between the back end. We've looked at how the systems interact with users and so on. So now let's look at the database into details. All right. So when we say the database, it normally consists of what? Of logically related data in a single repository, right? Logically related data stored in a single repository, right? So we have the physical and then we have the logical, put it in mind, right? So when you address data, right, in a single repository, then now you are keeping the database, right, of whatever you want to gather, right? Provides advantages over file system management approach. Provides advantages over file system management. Okay, so basically, the system, when you have the database system, it's the difference between that and the file system is that the database systems are normally well designed, well organized, right? But it mostly depends on the designer. But they, so far from every one we have seen, if you look at the systems, what they are based on, they have a more integrated version of what the scattered file system entails. You see, instead of having single databases in each department, you can have a centralized but distributed one. I'm going to explain that later on, right? You can have a centralized but distributed one where everybody with different computers in different branches of that same company having access to that same data that they would need. You get it? And even though there are limited access, depending on who has to access, whether you are a manager, owner, or a normal worker, right? So it is more organized if you look at the database systems as compared to the file system, right? So let's notice the differences between these ones, right? Eliminates inconsistency. So you just pick the disadvantages of the file system and it goes with the database systems. It will work that way for you, right? Stores data structures, relationships and access paths in addition to application data, right? Right, so the database system versus the file system. Okay, so we are looking at a proper imaging or imagery of how the file system looks like vis-a-vis the database system. So you see that at the top we have the database system, the picture of it. So all the explanations I've been saying or the explanation I've been giving, this is where we put them into picture, right? So with the DBMS system, you have, as I was saying, different departments accessing the same centralized system, but you see it's evenly distributed to everyone. Everybody has access to it by the same. So that's why I was saying centrally distributed, right? Centrally distributed to everyone. 1, 2, 3. If you look at my mouse, centrally distributed, right? So you have that system, they have access. So the banks use this a lot, right? So they are, if you go to another branch of, let's say, Ghana Commercial Bank, they may be using the same system. You see, they are dealing with different people, but the same system. Different people, but the same system. Customers come in, day out, but they are using the same system to do their transactions, to make their decisions, to make their marketing projections, right, and so on and so forth. And at the back end, as usual, you have the database, the employees, the various fields that may be created in the database systems, right? Employees, customers, sales, inventory, all in one. So you can see that in the cylinder here, right? And then in the file system, all these fields in the database of the database system, in the file system, these fields have become different repositories, right? And you need the developers to attend to each one of them in this system called the file system, which is very cumbersome. It can lead to duplication of files, right? So if you look at it like this and I'm explaining, it makes more sense to you. True or not true? Right. So you can have one particular department dealing with, let's say, customer sales inventory. You get it? You have one department dealing with employees separately. These are all separately. And you can even have that same accounting department interested in the sales because you need that to make your account. You see the whole thing, yet they are decentralized. And it's unless you have huge sums of money to do this, it's very, very tedious. Very, very tedious. As a developer, you don't want to find yourself in that situation, especially if it doesn't pay like that, right? Database system environment. So how does the environment look like? I mentioned the database designer, I mentioned the database administrator, I mentioned what? Administrator and the programmers, yes. So what do they do? And what do the designers do? So that the designers also sit on the computers, just like the administrators. You get it? So nowadays, it's even combined. You can have someone who is a programmer on that side, with the various languages in database management systems, and then also be an admin, and then also combine as a designer. Share. Brano, I hate all that. Almost always me get 3 jobs in at one at a go. May it never be your story. So, this is how the environment may look at like, right? So you may have the application, the programs being created by the programmers. They write it, so you can see it over there, right? And then they create the access to the DBMS, which is the database management system. And then we learned from this image. Where is it? Oh, I'm rather going forward. We learned from this image. Come here. Yeah, here, that you see that the data, the DBMS at the back of it, the system at the back of it is the database structure. And then the database structure includes the database and then end user data. The end user data includes the customer, the fields, the various fields you create within the database system. That is the end user data. And then you have the metadata. But in all, it's called the database structure. Do you see it at the top? Good. I wanted us to reach here before I come to that. All right, so that it makes sense to us all. So this is what we have here. So when we talk about data and under or at the back of DBMS, this is what we are talking about. So basically, the data here is what is talking about the data structure, where we were seeing the data structure, which included the metadata and then the end user data. So when they ask you what are the components of the database structure, you can say the metadata and then end user data. You get me? Yeah, so please note these ones. They are very, very important. Very, very important. Are we following? I want to ask some questions at this point. Can I ask some questions? Are we following closely? All right. So in the main of the official class, I understand that the lecturer was speaking a bit too fast, so we were not following well. So I decided to take my time here so that we can be following. Yeah. So I want to move on to talk about. Yeah. So let me just further explain the system, the environment. So you have these people. I've talked about them. The database administrator writes and enforces. So the work of the database administrator is after the designer and the programmers have done their work, there's someone who should be able to manage it, right? The manage it, and this person is called the database administrator, right? The database administrator. So we have it includes managing the affairs of the system after everything is made. So the person who handles it is honored with that role. But we have system administrator, which sits on top of them all. So the system administrator is normally the head of that department, right? So that's basically it. It involves the use of hardware. That's why you see hardware there in that environment, and you see the end users, and then the programmers who are normally also the analysts, right? Basically, right? So the database management system, what are its functions? What are the functions that they should have, right? The languages, the programming languages, or the interface, the programs for DBMS. What are the functions that they should normally have, or that they normally have, right? They have data dictionary management, right? This one, it normally includes the finding, how easy it is to find words, right? You should be able to easily find words where, because it has to do with data and fetching of data. So you must be able to put in some keywords to be able to locate how words are coming. Just a second. Being distracted. All right. Yeah. So it includes that it must include a feature, or they include features where you can use words to identify or locate your files or your data, right? They normally have storage facilities or at the back end where things are really kept, right? The data transformation and presentation. So how your data is stored is different from how it's presented, because the end user must be able to understand. And so normally the interface provides a way to present your data in order to make sense to the end user. I hope we understand, right? So your system or the database system is able to translate that data to be meaningful for presentation for people to understand. So you may have the individual data of people and their ages and the number of people in a location, but the system can fetch it and create like an analytical situation where it can provide statistics on the number or the percentages of people who are in a certain age bracket. So it's picking that data, that raw data, and able to present it in a way for people to be able to understand as it's presented, right? So the security management, it must be well secured so that people may not be able to have access to it. It's very, very important. Access in a form of remotely trying to conjure the very data that you have stored, at the back end. And we have people who are specialized in accessing those data, because now we are in the age of data, and data is money, right? Data is money. Now companies are buying data. So we have softwares or applications on your phone that are fetching your data and they are selling. So some of you wonder how Google makes money, right? Well, today we are spilling the beans. So they fetch your data and then they sell it to these companies. So day in, day out, people sue them, right? And they are trying, even though they are trying to reform, this is one of the ways that they earn money. Okay, they sell it to game companies. You ever wondered why the actions you perform on your phone or the actions you perform with your phone is what determines what type of advert that is projected to you? Is because maybe you've allowed or permitted that your data be used in a certain way, right? So um, uh, you have no idea who is having access to your data, right? So it's very, very important. These systems have or must have high-end security management systems, right? Also embedded on them for people not to be able to break or bypass the systems, right? You should be able to have multi-user access controls. If you are working for companies and you are the developer, database developer, right, or programmer, you should be able to allow such that how many people should have access, who should be prevented from having access, what level of access should be granted people, right? Should we give um, a single user access to people, or we should give them work group access or an enterprise access? We are going to look at that shortly. So you should be able to have a control system where people can be made admins. So I can use the Sakai system where certain people are admins and they have certain features on the system, on the Sakai platform for Sakai LMS, right? Where lecturers have a certain access to load certain files, right, or content for us to consume, right? And then there are also people on the top hierarchy who may have certain access that they may not have, right? So I understand that, for instance, the university has bought, the University of Ghana has bought certain rights. The University of Ghana has bought rights to the lecturers. So now, if you're a lecturer in the University of Ghana, and you do or you create a slide, as soon as you create the slide doesn't belong to you again because the school has bought the right to everything you create relating to the school. So it includes your slides, it includes your videos. So nowadays, you see that when they start the class, it records automatically, but they don't have access to the videos themselves. It goes to the top, but they don't have access. So someone has a higher access than they do, right? So the video doesn't belong to them again. So there you have it. So multi layers in the access of the same data or the same system, right? That is being used, all right? So multi-user access control, and then you have what? Backup and recovery management. Backup and recovery management. As you know, one of the things that will help you a lot, this feature or this function of a DBMS or DBMS system, even though it's repetitive, because it's database management system, just like saying GCB bank. All right, so DBMS system, if you created the first function you should probably let it have is the backup and recovery management system, because what is the purpose of keeping the whole data if you don't have a backup, if you don't back up regularly? Because these are machines, they can break down. You see, even the drives can corrupt and so on. You don't know what can happen. Maybe fire, water can come and destroy things. You must have your files backed up periodically, regularly. If not, you don't have to wait for your files to be so many that you back up and it's taking days to back up depending on the volumes. Okay, so if you are working for companies like which companies have a lot of data? I'll say Facebook for now, right? Because they hold billions of records of videos, live videos, and so on and so forth. Imagine their servers break down, Facebook server breakdown. Hey, the world is not going to be a better place. So you want to be able to back up your your files, your data, so that you can be able to um, recover them when you lose the original ones, right? Data integrity and management. One of the things as a database programmer or a designer or wherever you belong in the career in this course, one of the things you want to keep is the ability for your data not to be compromised. A lot of people would want access to your system not because they are interested in the pages of it or usage of it for the positive reasons, but they would want to change it. You pick your data from the right source, which are the correct data or the rightful data of the people, which will help to make good projections. Imagine your data is compromised. That means that every decision you will make will not favor people. Because if the people are in a location are 500,000 and I go and say the people are 100,000, if it is resource allocation, you will see that some people won't have, about 400,000 people will not have, because I went to say that the people are 100,000 instead of 500,000. You see the thing. The data has been compromised. See, so the data that you possess must be able or must well be, I don't know if the noise is coming in this, but I'm sorry, I apologize for that. A group of people in my area, they love to use the sports motors, and make a whole lot of noise with it. So talking about data integrity, so management, we are talking about the ability for your data not to be compromised, hence or less the projections based on them may also be false, right? False projections. So we need to look at that. Very, very important as someone in this field. Database language and application programming interfaces, right? So they also have these things on them, right? They have these things on them. You can, like I said, for the programmers, those who don't want to go to that side, most of these DBMS have this side where you can use to program them as well. And it must have very easy to use interfaces, and not those scary looking ones like the way some lecture slides look. I'm not mentioning names, so you see it, you know that everything that is, most of the things inside are like 20 years ago. So database communication interfaces, so they must be able to communicate, right? They must have systems in them that must be able to communicate to other devices, right? So they must be able to connect to the internet so that you share the programs, or they must be able to have communication features so that you'll be able to communicate the data you have in the same department or outside of the organization, right? So these are basic features or functions that a DBMS must have. And I've spoken about these things as well. Basic definitions: database, a collection of related data, known facts, mini world. So when we say mini world, what do we mean in database management system? When we say mini world, we basically are saying that there are some part of the real world about which data is stored in a database. For example, students' grades. So when I say go to University of Ghana and fetch me the grades of level 200, your mini world is where the school that we have instanced. So out of the whole world, that is the allocation, or that is your sample area that you have been given, right? Those who will be listening to this from research methodology courses, you would understand this, right? So you'll be able to have your sample area where you will work in. This is also known as mini world when you come into the DBMS field, database management system field. All right. So when we say it, the area where you are going to fetch your data, the area that has been assigned you to fetch your data, that is what is termed as the mini world. So when you see it in your exam next time, be able to blow it and do well, right? Database management systems, a software package system to facilitate the creation and maintenance of computerized database, right? A software package. So the DBMS I've been saying, even though I've explained, it's basically that software or the package or the system that facilitates the creation and maintenance. So you see why it's included. Where is the previous one? The previous slide. You see why one of the functions included here, the last but one, is what database language and application programming interfaces. It's a feature that you must have for the developers so that they will be able to use your this thing to also create, all right, different program for different organizations, right? So a software to facilitate the creation, so it must be able to create and be able to maintain, which is the work of the what? Who maintains the database system? Whose work is it to maintain? Is it the work of the? Okay, let me just keep quiet. Can someone answer that for us? Whose work is it? I've been talking for a long time. I want to ask some questions. I want to know if we are following. Anybody? Before we end the session. Anybody?
Is it the database administrator?
Correct, sir. You are 200% correct. Yes. So it is the work of the database administrator to maintain, and whose work is to create, right? Whose work? I want to see the response. This one, the response will be interesting. Whose work is to create? Yes, Mr. Kote.
The database designer.
The database designer. Any other person?
I say the database developer.
Okay, so both of you are correct in the sense that the developer and the designer are both involved in the creation, because the one who planned, right, the one who planned and designed the foundations or the architectural side of it is also part of the creation. And then the one who wrote the code itself, it also created it. You get it? But sometimes it's just the same people or the same person who does both. So I just wanted to see if you guys will be confused. But both, unless it is specified, because sometimes in the exam it is specified that who designs and who codes or who programs. Do you get it? So you need to know this. But when it comes like creation, you get it. You will see that both will be correct. All right. So let's keep that in mind. It's very, very important. Very, very important. I'm glad that you got it correct. So Mr. Kote, congrats. Mr. Boaje, congrats as well. Database system. In ending, unfortunately, I have to end. In database system, the DBMS software, together with the data itself, is the system itself. So when we say the database system, is talking about the software, right? The software together with the data itself. So we are talking about the software and then the database. You get it? So sometimes the application are also included. So these two, DBMS and then when we say DS, they are used interchangeably. These two, they can mean both. But for the purposes of exams, one has to do with the package system, the creation and then maintenance, which is the full DBMS, right? The creation and maintenance, because maintenance includes after you create it, keeping it, okay? And then the database system, which is the software together with the data itself. And they are saying that sometimes also the application are also included. That means that it's also used what interchangeably. But for the purposes of your exams, try and know the difference. It's, DBMS should obviously be the mother, and then database system should be one of the children, if for the purposes of memorization. All right. So we move. Okay. So a simplified database system. Oh, I said I was ending. Oh. Should we end? I think we should end. Let me take in questions. Do you have any question up to now? The way I've taken my time to explain. Wow. Okay. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? I think we were almost through the first lesson. With about some few. Let me see. Oh.
We should end and save the data for tomorrow.
Wow, that's powerful. Tomorrow another tutor will come, God willing. Okay, so let me talk about simplified database system. All right, is that okay? So the way you said it and went away, you said it and vanished. I don't know if everyone agrees with him. Please, unless they say something, at least 4 people must say something. Hey. Please if 4 people can unmute and say something, then we'll continue, please. Because someone can say something and use it to affect everyone. It doesn't mean that everyone agrees with it. So please, Mr. Jekum, is it Mr. Jekum who said it?
Yes, Evans.
Okay. Please, do we all agree? Because I have just 1 minute to end, and I just wanted to go through these ones, but they also need time to explain so that we can get, because these ones are examinable ones. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop an assignment, God willing, on Monday evening on the page on these things that you have learned, right? So you will see that everything will begin to make sense from here going forward, right? This is a simplified version of the database system environment, all right? So if you want to draw a diagram on it and all that, I was going to let us go much deeper into this, but I'm going to take it. It's basically, these things I've already spoken about them, and the movement of your data when you query it, and the feedback you get after your queries, and then your requests. These are the repositories. You have the stored data and then the metadata, which are normally not accessible. Metadata, which includes the extra details of your data, right? It may include length, duration, depends on the type of data that you have stored. You guys are making me go by it. So this is basically it, okay? and the interface is outside usage of it, how it looks like, the interface, right? Is the database, is a database system. So if you look at the white space, anything in the white space, in the inside the bigger box, okay, the biggest box, anything in that space is the database system. Okay, but the main thing is the DBMS software. So when we say the DBMS software, notice we didn't say DBMS system. But when we are talking about the software itself, it has to do with the software, the program, and then the package of it, the setup, right? The program itself, and then the data involved in the program. When the I mean the algorithm with the programming of the data of the program when it was being programmed, or by the developers. So this is what we call the DBMS. This is what entails the DBMS software. But the data that is stored in it is normally on the back end. And so normally it is outside of it. It is an extra data that is now added to it. So it's not part of the DBMS software when we are saying it. You get it? And so that's how come it is outside of the deep area. All right. So you have the data stored database, and then you have this another stored database, but that one is for metadata, right? And which we've looked at. So when you talk about the database system, this is what it includes. So you realize that the database system doesn't include the users, and then the users. But when we say the DBMS itself, then you are talking about everything holistically, right? Everything holistically. Okay, so this is basically a nutshell of everything. This leads us to the beginning of a new topic, outline data models and their category, history of data models, and so that we are going to treat that in our next lectures. Thank you all for being here tonight. See you all in our next session. If there are no questions, if there are some questions, you can raise your hand. If there are no questions, or you would want to reach out privately, just on the page, you'll see that the tutors, we are all on the page. So you can hit us up, and then we will attend to you. Meanwhile, get ready for the questions. I'm giving you a heads up. It will be objective, and I'll try and bring some essay parts where you type the answer, and then your answer will be your work will be marked instantly. All right. So God willing, I would like to also talk about the fact that these classes are free for all of us, right? And however, there are some times that we need to know that there are some people who are spending time to come and teach us, right? Lecture us about these things. And so there's a need for all of us to be involved, right? One way or the other. We are not charging much, right? We are not charging much. So all these 6 courses that we are doing every semester, right? We are paying 270 cedis for all of them, all the 6 courses. So if you were to pay 200 cedis, as some people are doing for other courses, for each course, how much are you going to incur in that semester? You see the whole thing. You are going to incur so much, and it's very, very important. And these things that we are talking about, you see the way the lecturer will tell you that they are there to just lecture. You see that thing? They will just tell you they are there to lecture, but there are some people who have dedicated their time to come and really teach us, and also relate it to their careers and all that. So you see that we are not actually doing teaching here. We are doing extensive. You are involved in extensive learning and reading and researching, right? Relating it to career, tomorrow, what work. You see, giving you the possibilities of where you can branch into, and so on. You get it? So you are learning everything you are involved in the class extensively over here, and there's a need to communicate in all good things. So 270 is just a token, right, in a nutshell. And in addition, all these recorded videos are at your disposal. One of the things I've done is for us to create a media team. So we've created a media team that is in charge of privately recording the official sessions for some of you who have paid, like all of you who have paid, so that you have access. Those who pay, they have access to the privately record official videos, not the makeup only. So I've tasked certain people to do that. Okay, so admins, try and work with them and get them, so those who are paid, they have the recorded videos of the makeup class and then the recorded videos of the official class, because sometimes you record a video, it's about 4 gigabytes, and you need to upload on YouTube. It takes bundle to do that. Look at the time we have spent here for you to benefit. Imagine the time we have spent in researching before we come here. Look at how I would have wanted to speak very fast by trying to speak very slow, trying to use simple terms, and then assimilate or transform into the technical for you who are new into this environment. Because I know some people are intermediaries, some people are advanced in this. I also know that a lot of our people are entirely new to this. Some are coming from business backgrounds into IT. So I had to find the bridge or the distance to, and it's not just me, all the tutors do same. So 270 is just a token for 6 courses. Nobody will do that. Sometimes the tutors fight me, but it's supposed to be like a charity for all of us. So tell a friend to tell another friend. Today is Val's Day, so most of them are chasing the wind. They are not chasing the wind. Some of them will find their loved ones. But you are here dedicating your time. It means that you are concerned with your academics too as well. You see, and if you are concerned with your academics, you want to take another step further, right, and be able to participate in contributing something. Sometimes it's just a little effort you make what pushes the people involved to also give their best, right? Imagine I'm coming to teach from an empty stomach. I would want to even end cry and move out. But so everyone, you get it. So let's take notice of these things, and then let's try and take advantage. You see, these things are not being done by any level. We are the only students who have come together to do this thing for our people, for our constituents, so that everybody will benefit and be able to get their 6 A's. It's possible to get your 6 A's this semester. You see that thing. So please get involved and pay something. One of the things we want to do is when you bring someone, if you convince 2 people, 3 people to come, next semester in the next one, you may have a discount. So the team keeps records, okay? And we have database and they keep record, and then they'll factor you in the next payment. Those who did well in some things last semester, they realized that they had some small discount, and it's helping out, right? Even though we are not supposed to give discounts, you see, this 270 for 6, we are still reducing again. Hey, I'm intentionally saying it in the recording so that after 12 years, you come and say, these people were helping me. 270 for 6 courses when you have been paid thousands of dollars. Yeah, so these videos will be there, and it will come and help the level 100 as well. We have records from last semester as well to help them. You see, so we need to help each other. Okay, I'm done talking. I'm gonna find something to eat. I'm trying to say everything in the recording. Mr. Dako, will you say something in the recording again? Okay, so
No. Just tomorrow, Monday, we might be having a programming class on Java. So
Yes.
those who are
So,
interested should reach out to Mr. Joshua so that they can join.
yes, Mr. Anand. So if you watch the communique that was being posted on the various platforms for which you got the link to join, you can communicate with any of them. It's likely going to be Mr. Anand Joshua, and then Mr. Korte Emmanuel Ni Papa. So we are leaving a legacy, from 5 years or 3 years. Some of you will see some companies will come and catch you and give you visa to Serbia. Okay, so please do to do your payment. God willing, Monday, Java continues or it begins. All right, get the videos, make use of them, pay and have access. God bless you. Love you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.